the skies are wide. Talking about a journey through the cosmic ride. Einstein and Thorne, they set the stage for a trip through time across the space age. Wormholes connect distant points in space. Traversable paths to a far-off place. No black holes pull, no crushing weight. Just a cosmic tunnel to a distant gate.
Talking wormholes, stargates, negative energy. Travel through the cosmos, it's our destiny. MH370, where did it go? Boeing 777 through a wormhole flow. We're talking wormholes, stargates, negative energy. Travel through the cosmos, it's our destiny. MH370, where did it go? Boeing 777 through a wormhole flow.
Exotic matter, negative energy's the key to stabilize the wormhole for you and me. Quantum vacuum squeeze so tight, creating conditions for this wondrous flight. Static fields and lasers in the lab they play, generating forces in a new kind of way. Gravitational squeezing, Casimir's force, negative zones we need to stay the course.
Talking wormholes, stargates, negative energy. Travel through the cosmos, it's our destiny. MH370, where did it go? Boeing 777 through a wormhole flow.
Thin shell formalism plates so fine. Spherical geometry we realign. Energy conditions that we must defy. For a stable wormhole, let's give it a try. Forces balancing the plates, creating the throat, opening gates from Earth to the stars in a single bound. A shortcut through space profound. Engineers and dreamers hold the key to future worlds and what we could be. With science in hand, we forge ahead through the cosmic paths that we now tread.
We're talking wormholes, stargates, negative energy. Travel through the cosmos, it's our destiny. MH370, where did it go? Boeing 777 through a wormhole flow.
From the fields to the stars, we break the chains. Understanding the universe, we make the gains. Lil Hula Crunk shines, bringing truth to light. Through his music, we'll explore the night. With wormholes and stargates, our path is clear. Exploring the cosmos, our future's here.
Boom! Hey, everybody. Welcome to the stream tonight, everybody. I'm your host, Ashton Forbes. Just getting set up here, guys. Hope you guys are having a great night. Let me get my sound changed, even though we probably don't need it. There we go. Hey, everybody. I saw a lot of people in the chat ahead of time. Appreciate it, guys. Glad you guys are here hanging out with us tonight. So first thing you might notice is that there's a cord here that's now white. Pretty sweet. Just got that set up while I was listening to the music right then. Also, big thanks for the people who came up with the songs and the music that I've been playing for a couple months now. It's been pretty amazing. The music's been so solid that people have been copying us as well. And they've been trying to do their own stuff, which is pretty funny. It goes to show that the AI music stuff's come a really long way. Okay, guys, what are we doing tonight? Tonight is a big night. We're talking about MH370 tonight. We're going to be going over the evidence review again. I'm going to show the videos here in a few minutes. And we're going to go through the evidence. We're going to talk about the story. I'm going to be monitoring the chat so that if people have questions related to the story that they want to know about, maybe we have to delve into a little bit deeper, we can do that. And then after the evidence review stream here in about 2 hours from now, there's going to be an X space between JK Philly fan and some of the debunkers. I think T Powell. I'm not really sure the exact format. I will join that space. I am not planning on streaming the space. I'm also not planning on talking during that space either. I want to leave it to them to do their own thing. I want to hear other people's thoughts without me being in the middle of it. So I encourage people to join that space and check it out. I don't know what it's going to be like in general, but we'll see. Hey, downers. Yeah, I saw one of these videos back in 2014, in the summer of 2014. I remember I saw that drone video. I had no idea what I was looking at back then. I even remember my reaction when I first saw the video back then. I was just like, what is this? I didn't even know what drone footage looked like or anything like that. And yeah, I think a lot of people initially think, oh, this person's got to be crazy. I mean, that's what human nature is to respond to a lot of this, is you say, that can't be possible. But once you start to dig into the evidence, especially once you start to dig into the science, you realize that it can be possible. In fact, something that one of my buddies told me recently was that the people that are the most knowledgeable out there never say something's impossible under any circumstance, because some people have seen so much magical technology that, you know, you come to a point where it's like, it's hard to differentiate even what's possible to be fake, you know? And that's kind of the problem, is that, you know, if everything is possible, then you really can't rule anything out unless you have really strong evidence it's not true. So I would say those would be smart words to live by here. Now, just as a quick disclaimer before we get into this, I absolutely believe that the MH370 videos are real. I've seen some lies on social media that Ashton's claimed that he says the videos are fake or whatever. That's all bullshit. There's a lot of bullshit that's being spread about me, about the case, about the videos. So you have to be very careful about where you get your information from. If you're not hearing it from me directly, then it's not something that is true in general. And yeah, not only do I believe the videos are fake, there we go. I already screwed up. I'm sure that'll get clipped out of context. Not only do I believe the videos are real from the investigation, from just looking at them, I could tell they're real just looking at them, but the investigation that supports them, the science that supports them. But there's also stuff that's even gone on behind the scenes that I've never disclosed that it makes me believe even more that the videos are real. I've said publicly that I know for a fact that there are politicians that have been briefed. I wouldn't call it like, here's the briefing, although that's probably happened as well. But that people have informed them about the videos. I know for a fact, and that they've been totally silent on it, which should raise a lot of questions. When something is fake out there, people will jump all over it and say how fake it is and how unreal it is and how untrue it is. So when someone pushes ridiculous claims and the authority has no response whatsoever, that should give people pause. I've reported this case to the AARO. They said that under no uncertain terms, they would be able to figure out if the videos are real, that they would be able to have the classifications required to find out if those videos are real. And they've ghosted me for the last 3 months straight. Ghosted me. Why would the AARO be ghosting me, guys? The AARO wants to discredit every case that's out there. And yet, after they looked into it, they found something related to the U.S. search after the plane left radar. And now they've ghosted me. We're going to have to add that to the evidence list tonight, guys. It's pretty weird. Let's just be honest. It's weird. So, okay, guys. If I miss your comment or question, feel free to repost it. And I'm only going to answer a couple questions. We have a lot to get through tonight in the beginning, but I'll answer questions as we go. If I miss it, just post it again. And maybe it helps if you put question in the front, so maybe it'll stand out. I'm not trying to ignore people's questions. End game wise, I don't know, guys. It's a long marathon that we're in here, not a sprint or a race. Ideally, we just keep putting pressure on people and get to the point where this story is talked about the same way where the pilot suicide myth is talked about today. Where everybody, it's so funny. I read these comments and everyone's like, oh, well, I think it was pilot suicide because I watched the Green Dot Aviation YouTube video. It just goes to show how dumb as a society we've gotten at this point, where it's like people just watch some random YouTuber who like ignores like 80% of the evidence. And they're like, yeah, this must be it. There's literally no evidence whatsoever of pilot suicide, not even a single piece of evidence related to pilot suicide. It's all innuendo and speculation, and it's all counter to all the official narratives all the official all officials and factual evidence related to it. We're going to go over a little bit here tonight as well. So hopefully we can get to a point where instead of people talking about the silly pilot suicide narrative, people go, yeah, obviously the satellite pings are faked. We did multiple searches and found nothing in the location where the satellite pings indicate. So maybe these military videos that got leaked to the internet, they're 2 videos from 2 different perspectives. Maybe these are what really happened to the plane. You know, that's what I think the long game would be here. At the end of the day, like, this technology is so beyond the paradigm and so classified and so secret that it's going to be really hard to get it out. The truth is, like, I know that even the white hats, even the good guys, even the people that are for like UFO disclosure, they don't want this stuff out. They're afraid of having this stuff cut out. That's how crazy this is. You should be thinking about the technology that we're about to see in these videos in terms of like atomic bomb type technology. Like, if we had not dropped the bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, the atomic bombs, no one today would probably have any idea that the Manhattan Project even existed. That's the truth. That's the real scenario here. And people would be talking about nuclear bombs as if they're fictional weapons. No one could ever make a bomb that can be that destructive. That's not possible. The same way that they talked about the telephone and said that the telephone must be fake. That literally happened. I saw people trying to debunk that too, which is just, it goes to show these debunkers are just off their rocker, right? Like, I literally found the article talking about how Bell invented the telephone, patented the telephone in 1876. 1878, he gets arrested on a street corner. The same day, there's a news article talking about only idiots basically believe that sending communications through wires is possible, voices through wires is possible. Guys, that's what we're dealing with here, unfortunately, is the science has got to catch up big time. But here's the thing as well, and we'll talk about questions like why they ordered the plane, all that stuff here in a minute. Crap, I forgot what I was going to say about the reason why the videos will eventually get proven true no matter what is that the technology will end up getting out. Like, people are going to find out in the future, and I've already made these bold claims that we can manipulate gravity and that we can literally teleport objects, macro-sized objects, from one place to the other. We can teleport this phone from over here to over here. Like, that's possible. You've already heard people, especially in the UFO world, talk about this technology openly. They've said these stories. Those stories are true stories, probably. Like, we can actually teleport objects. The government has already figured it out. And when teleportation comes out, then people are going to look back at these videos under a new set of lens, because we're going to find out that the science perfectly matches what we see in the videos that we're about to watch right now. Okay. So that's how it's going to play out, guys. Good to have everybody here. Let's see if we have any last questions. Marco Rubio actually, I think, probably does know, because I think that the people that know are like the Senate Intelligence Committee. So I've dug through all the politicians and the background related. That's not going to be in the evidence review, so this is a good question to answer. Most Congress people have no idea. Most of them don't even have security clearances. They're not required to have security clearances. If you don't have a security clearance, there's no chance you have any idea about this whatsoever. And even with the security clearance, there's definitely no guarantee. This is extremely compartmentalized. Some of the people in Congress, though, have been talking to some of the engineers that know about this kind of stuff. The Senate Intel Committee probably knows, and they're probably gatekeeping it because of the national defense and national security implications related to it. So the reason why I see people like Marco Rubio talking about, like, you'll see him talk about the incursions and the threat to aerospace, because he knows about this stuff. And there's probably, like, Chinese and Russian drones that use some of this technology as well. And then we're just calling it UFOs. And then people like Chuck Schumer, like, who drafted this UAP disclosure bill, don't trust him at all. Do not trust him at all. I almost guarantee that he knows. And these guys are all manipulated and controlled by the 3-letter agencies and private military contractors. So just heads up. There you go, guys. Okay, yeah, one last question. What do you think about the upcoming search? I think the search is in November is what I've read. I called and sent emails to Ocean Infinity asking where exactly they were searching and what evidence they were using to determine their search location. And of course, they didn't respond back at all. You may also notice my magic card thing is missing over here. It's because it's currently keeping the sun away out of my giant window I have over there that I can't find a blind for. So that's why we can see right now. But that magic card thing will go back later. Don't worry. Okay. Guys, I don't know about different realities. We're probably not going to be diving into the different reality stuff right now. It gets a little bit too beyond into the woo. I don't generally think there's necessarily different realities, but time does get very weird because space and time are one and the same. So when you manipulate space time, you actually manipulate time in general. Like when you put something into superposition. So I don't know. We're probably not going to speculate too much on that. It's too hard. I don't have any insights into it other than what's theoretically possible. Okay, we'll dig into some of these questions about remote control. In fact, I'm going to put some of these questions on my list right now. I'm trying to make sure. Someone asked about whether or not they'd be remote controlled, so I'm going to put that on my list. We'll try to get to that here in a second. I don't think that I'm going to be going on Joe Rogan anytime soon. I don't know if these people are gatekeepers. I don't know if they've been controlled, but I do know Joe Rogan has connections to a lot of people who've been gatekeeping. You know, he knows like Gary Nolan, Eric Weinstein, who's controlled by Peter Thiel. You know, Jeremy Corbell. Like Jeremy Corbell, I wouldn't trust a single thing this guy says anymore. Period. Nothing he says. I think his intentions are to have disclosure, but not in the way that I'm trying to get disclosure. And some of those guys like Ross Kohler, some of these guys, some of these people are either being intentionally misled on the technology or they're just ignorant. I don't know which it is in general, but like I said, even the good guys are afraid of having this technology come out. That's the reason why there's been so few people that have lined up to try to support me, is that both people on either side, they don't mind getting the disclosure of like anti-gravity technology, but they don't want to be exposing the United States military for what we did. That's the sticky situation here, which I kind of love in general, which is like, not only did we find out about anti-gravity technology, but it exposes the United States government in the biggest conspiracy of all time, bar none. You may think there's other conspiracies that are larger, but I'm sorry, there's not. When it comes to disappearing a full Boeing 777, lying to the world about it through the media, and then also hiding the suppressed science, there is nothing bigger than that. It even connects to some other conspiracies as well, potentially. Okay, guys. I don't think we're going to talk about the 9/11 stuff here in general, but I do think this kind of technology is certainly capable of turning into a directed energy weapon. You will see a lot of people talking about the same kind of technology related to other conspiracy theories like 9/11. You also see it when it talks about earthquake and weather manipulation by some people that I really enjoy some of their work. So, you know, you can check that stuff out. And this stuff, by the way, is so compartmentalized that even if people were in the military, that doesn't mean they have access to it. Like the amount of people that I imagine know about some of this technology is in the dozens, not in the thousands. And if you are somebody that was lucky enough to be like a Bob Lazar type person that maybe got pulled into one of these things and you start talking too much, they're going to either discredit the hell out of you or they're just going to kill you. So that's why people don't talk, and they don't want to go to prison either. You break your NDAs and it's prison time, you know? So you got to be very careful about some of that. We will talk about where the orbs could be deployed from as well. Let's see. Anything else? Yeah, there's too many skeletons in the closet to reveal a lot of this technology, guys. We are going to talk about why. I was actually watching the video you guys should watch on APEC is the one from June 8th. David Chester talks about the exact physics that I'm talking about. He's a PhD physicist. And the person right before him, right at the end, talks about the idea of bringing the ether back as well. Pretty cool. That actually reminded me, I want to add that to my list of notes where I might make a clip out of that. Sometimes I have so much stuff, guys, that I go to sleep and I wake up and I forget about all this stuff that I was checking out. Like, that's part of the reason why I get so exhausted on this. Like I read so many scientific papers now too, and some of them are hard to get through. Okay. Supposedly it was Corbell, but you know, Corbell and Knapp are you know, a pair duo, so it wouldn't surprise me if Knapp had some say as well in it. We haven't got a response from AARO, and we're almost to the 3-month anniversary of the last response from the AARO, which was April 11th. Right-handed neutrinos, I don't know much about it. I actually don't know much about neutrinos in general. Let's see. We're surviving. Oh God, I already lost my. Oh, there it is. Okay, did they survive? We are going to talk about whether or not the people survived, and we're going to talk about the story. So let's start with the story here. Yeah, I'm a fan of Jimmy Dore. Jimmy Dore actually gave me a shout out on my post related to the Daily Wire. It was so funny. Out of all this stuff that I posted on Twitter, he brings up my post about the Daily Wire and Ben Shapiro's public downfall. Out of all this stuff with Kurt Metzger too, which was weird because Kurt Metzger was the one who mentioned the videos on Joe Rogan. That's the only time they've ever been mentioned, when Kurt Metzger went on. He actually went on and replaced me when I was going to go on March 25th. And then Kurt Metzger is looking at a literal tweet from Ashton Forbes. I can't believe he wasn't like, "Oh, Jimmy, do you know what this guy actually discloses?" How did he not say anything about it? What the hell? Weird. Anyway, it was bizarre, man. Okay, let's dig into this, guys. We only have so long. I want to start with the flight path video. We're gonna start with the flight path video. I'm gonna do a brief overview. Then I'm gonna show both MH370 videos, and then we're gonna dig into the evidence. And then you guys can keep asking questions while you go. It's going to be best if you ask questions when we get to the section. So the evidence review list is 17 pages long, guys. So we're going to have to go through it kind of quick. If you have questions, try to keep them when we get to the part related to it. Okay. So this plane animation video here. Pause this. Okay. So it's very important to see the visual of what's going on right here. So this is the MH370 flight path. This is the official flight path of MH370, and we've added some stuff onto this image. God, I can't even remember who made this now. I think it was Chris from Not So Deep podcast made this. Shout out to him. This is one of my first podcasts I did. They made this video for me, which is great. Plane is flying from Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia to Beijing, China. Now, it gets to this part here where it's in the South China Sea. So this over here on the South China Sea is where this plane goes dark. And it goes dark 64 seconds after the final publicly released communication that says, "Good night, Malaysian Airlines Flight 370. Now, there's some arguments about what the final communication was, and they argue that the officials changed the verbiage in the final communication and later on had it say something else, which is interesting, but not super relevant here. Retired Air Force Captain Bellelli, apparently he's the one do I have on record saying that it's basically not possible for the pilot to have disabled all 4 APUs simultaneously. So and I think I have one of the other people saying that they're not under the impression this is an act that could have been committed by the pilot. So there's already, from the officials and independent investigators, a huge amount of doubt whether or not the pilot could even make the plane go dark right here. And just knowing how complex a Boeing 777 is, I would speculate that there's no chance that a pilot did this on their own. There's just no way. Disabling all this stuff basically isn't possible. So at this point, the plane goes dark. Now, this is where the lithium-ion battery fire starts. How do we know that? Because there's witnesses. Now, the reason why I believe this flight path is credible, as opposed to Florence DeChangy, who believes that the plane went to Vietnam, is that we have witnesses all along this route, real people who saw the plane. So we don't even need to rely on satellite pings. The satellite pings also indicate this direction. This is where the plane went. But the strongest evidence is the radar evidence. And the radar evidence cuts off when you see this dotted line here. So the first witness is Mike McKay. He's on an oil rig 300 miles east of here, northeast of here. Now, the people that don't believe in the fire event think that Mike McKay made up this story, which is insane to think that he made up this story. The guy who works on oil rig didn't make up a random story about MH370 with the correct direction of where the plane literally actually was. So the way they discredit Mike McKay is they claim that it was too far for him to have seen the plane, which is pretty absurd because the plane would have been at cruising altitude and he's on an oil rig above the ocean. The weather conditions were literally perfect. It had just rained. So if you don't know much about the weather in Southeast Asia, there's a lot of haze and smog. When the rain comes in, it's like a beautiful to be able to see. And it's the middle of the night, which you would say, oh, well, it's very dark. But actually, when you're out away from the city, you see the stars. The stars and the moon actually provide a little bit of light. And if the plane was on fire and he was looking for a fire or just even like a little flicker of burn, he's going to be able to see it extremely far away. And it would have been low of the horizon as well. Now, I'm going to try to go a little bit faster here. There's also 9 people along the coast that hear loud noises. And this is all in the evidence review as well. 9 people on the coast all hear loud noises at the same time Mike McKay sees the plane on fire for 5 or 10 seconds. This is going to be consistent with the plane fire extinguishing devices go off. They start putting the fire out, and then the runaway lithium-ion battery fires are going to come back up again and again. You can find any number of videos online that will show this scenario. Now, the plane turns around, and we know this is a manual turn back, and I believe it was Captain Bellelli that also they did a look at the radar, and they found that they did an emergency descent maneuver here as well. So manual turn back directed at Penang, the closest airport to land a Boeing 777 in a fire event emergency, and an emergency descent. Both of these are 100% consistent with a fire scenario. You are trying to get low, depressurize the plane because the fire extinguishing devices are taking oxygen out. You need to flush the smoke. You need to get clean air in there so people can breathe. The gas masks at best are only lasting 30 minutes. And it turns out there was just a lawsuit against Boeing that some of their gas masks actually were faulty and don't work at all. So pretty sketch. 10 minutes after this plane turns around, you're going to have a Boeing 777 pilot flying into Narita that hears communications from the pilots of MH370, which shows us there was still communication capability. And then it begs the question is, why were we not told about that communication and other communications as well? Because probably they were kept classified. Also, to corroborate the emergency descent, there's 8 fishermen off on a boat 10 miles off the coast between Thailand and Malaysia, right here. 10 miles off the coast, they see the plane flying unusually low, consistent with that emergency descent, consistent with the pilot trying to keep everybody alive. So we're already at a point where you can pretty much conclusively rule out a pilot suicide scenario. Everything that's already happened just 10 minutes after the plane gone dark and the minutes before the plane went dark essentially rules out a pilot suicide scenario. If the pilot was suiciding this plane, they would immediately crash into the ocean. They wouldn't waste any time about it. There's no reason to. And if they were trying to hide the plane, they would fly east to the Mariana Trench. They would not go whatever this route is here. Now, to support the fact that there was communications, we have the interview with Four Corners with the Malaysian Minister of Defense. And he's asked why they didn't send up jets. And he repeats that they knew that it was a commercial airliner and they knew the plane was not hostile, even though all they're doing is tracking a rogue plane that doesn't have a transponder. Now, that's impossible to know unless the only way you can know that it's not hostile, there's no other way, is if you have communication with the plane. That's the only way. Otherwise, there's no possible way to rule out that the plane had been hijacked. There's no way to rule out that it was an emergency event rule out that it was pilot suicide, for example. You can't know what people are thinking unless you're talking to them. It's really that simple. So we know there must have been communications because otherwise the story doesn't make any sense. Why would you not send up jets to track the plane? And his bouncing around makes no sense as well. What did the pilot hear? Good question. The pilot heard static, but they heard the voices they said both pilots, I believe. You guys can find that. I think it was a Boeing 777 pilot didn't want to be named. They didn't want to lose their job. They didn't want to get discredited. They were flying to Narita. So you can find that. There's not much other information out there related to that communication that I can find. Now, when the plane gets to Penang, the co-pilot's cell phone pings the cell tower. Now, this tells us the plane had to be flying very low. For a commercial cell phone, for my cell phone here to ping the cell tower, you've got to be under 7,000 feet. You can test this yourself. Next time you get on an airplane, just forget to turn your phone off, and you'll see that you're going to lose signal as it gets higher and higher and higher. Now, also, there's another, I think it's Butterworth. If I'm saying that incorrectly, let me know. There's actually a military base just north of here as well. that under no circumstances would have possibly have missed this Boeing 777 flying past it. This is part of the reason why Florence DeChangy does not believe that the plane went this direction, because she said the military base would have tracked it. She's right. They probably did. They did track it. So now the plane makes a deviation here. Now, this is the part where I'm going to bring back in the remote autopilot capability. We are going to add to our story here in a few minutes the 2 AWACS. So not only was the French father told about 2 AWACS, he was told the Americans know exactly what happened on this plane, and there was 2 AWACS in the area. These are these jamming planes. Florence DeChangy also looked into this. I don't know if her sources are the same. I found an article somebody sent me about her sources. She confirmed there was 2 AWACS in the area. Okay, guys, why are there 2 jamming planes in there? Well, first of all, there's Cobra Gold and Cope Tiger exercises going on between Thailand and the United States right in this area. So all the advanced military equipment would have been there. Now, they probably, in my opinion, were jamming the plane, and we're going to add this to our evidence list. They were probably jamming the plane maybe the whole time. It's possible the satellite pings are all completely fabricated, and that they were jamming this plane. That's the reason why it either couldn't communicate. That could have been the reason why the transponder appeared to be off. It's hard to tell. Now, our final witness comes into play here pretty soon. The plane, when the day after the plane disappears, the same day, I mean, March 8th, 2014, that's when this plane disappeared. Subang, all the reports said Subang Air Traffic Control lost contact with the plane at 1840 UTC. 1840 is an important number because at 1840 UTC, this plane is over where this boat is over here, where Catherine T sees it. Then they changed the time days later. Days later, they reveal, oh, we have this radar tracking of the plane. Oh, well, that's interesting. Why didn't you tell us about that? Oh, and the radar supposedly lost contact with the plane at 1822 UTC, which is 18 minutes before all the reports the day the plane disappeared. Keep in mind, the plane disappeared. We don't know where, like that the day the plane disappeared, we had no idea what was going on. We did not know about this flight path at all. We had no idea. We thought maybe the plane disappeared in the South China Sea, but the timing didn't match up. 1840 didn't match up with 1721. So everyone was trying to weigh this and figure this all out. Why does the plane not land in Penang? Good question. I should have addressed that. There's multiple reasons. It could have been a judgment call. It could be that because they couldn't deploy the landing gear. I'm not sure. It could be that they couldn't dump the fuel. So this plane is loaded with 8 hours of fuel, and it's like an hour into their flight. So they're way overweight. So if you don't have power, I found out you can't dump your fuel. And then some of the pilots said, oh, well, you would just attempt a landing with the while overweight. Well, maybe you got a plane on fire, you're overweight, and you're overloaded with fuel. Doesn't seem like a good mixture to me. We don't know exactly why the plane didn't land. Nobody on this world knows why the plane didn't land. All we know for sure is the plane flew directly over Penang at a very low altitude based on the evidence that's been given. So maybe they set up a rendezvous point because they were going to attempt a water emergency landing. We can't tell. It's hard to say for sure. So anyway, they changed the time of the sighting. And this is important because when you look at all the radars that are around here, and I've got an image, I'm probably not going to bring it up right now. Maybe I'll show it in the evidence review. There's at least 5 radar that are still in this area, and all the way going to where this boat is. There's 5 different radars from 3 different countries: Thailand, Indonesia, and India. All have radars that are within range of this plane. There's no way this plane was not being tracked. So the question there is, how come none of these other countries have ever given out their radar information? They would have seen what happened to this plane. And why is this area here the area where all of a sudden this plane is going dark when we know there's 3 other countries that would have been following it? Okay. Now, Catherine T is the final witness and probably the most important witness because she talked to investigators. She landed. Her boat is here. She's going to Phuket. She sees the plane flying low with no navigation lights on, with smoke coming out the back of it, and it's glowing orange. This is consistent with the fire event in a way that no other story really makes any sense, which is the reason why everybody else tried to discredit Catherine T. Even 10 years later, Catherine T still sticks to her story. Her story is extremely detailed. They've even recreated the general path of the plane based on the GPS coordinates. And they found that the plane was coming from the right direction and it was turning around the boat in this fashion that you see here, roughly. So Catherine T sees this plane. The glowing orange is going to be consistent with bromine from the halogen. Bromine as a halogen gas, which is orange gas that kind of glows a little bit, coming from the halon 1301 fire extinguishing devices, which is a chemical within those devices. So you can imagine a chemical reaction occurring over a period of about 1 hour and 20 minutes, where she sees this plane. So that's our fire event. And then from this point, this part is really important because this place where Catherine T is the same location, generally speaking, where they claim the plane went into the South Indian Ocean. It made a hard turn and just beeline into the South Indian Ocean and flew straight for 5 or 6 hours and then crashed somewhere in the ocean where we never found anything. So if you look at a flight path and you say, well, where would be the location where you expect something to happen on this flight path? First, you would say maybe the South China Sea, but we have all this evidence showing that the plane went over here somewhere else. The very last witness to ever see this plane is Catherine T. And she sees it in the location that makes the next most sense for something to occur. This random location where the plane supposedly turns into the South Indian Ocean. The only evidence for the plane turning into the South Indian Ocean is Inmarsat's satellite pings. That's it. That's all there is Inmarsat satellite pings. There's 0 witnesses that ever saw this plane in the South Indian Ocean. Nobody saw it flying past Indonesia. None of the military bases that are along the route into the South Indian Ocean saw the plane. There's 0 evidence the plane went into the South Indian Ocean, except for 10 rows on an Excel spreadsheet. That's it. The difference between this being the end of the plane right here and this plane going to the South Indian Ocean is 10 rows on an Excel spreadsheet. I want to really contextualize it for you guys to understand how easy it was to mislead people. So the last thing I'll say, we're going to watch the videos right now, is that there are coordinates in the satellite video, which I'm going to show you first. And the coordinates of the satellite video are roughly, 100 and something miles away from Catherine T's boat right here in the Nicobar Islands. Why is this important? The satellite video I'm about to show you was published on the internet at the latest. It's possible other people uploaded it and we never found them, but the earliest version we found was uploaded May 19th, 2014. This is roughly 72 days after the plane disappeared. This is 8 days before the raw telemetry Inmarsat pings were ever released to the public. Before that, all there was a graph. And the graph made no sense whatsoever. The experts couldn't make any sense of it. The experts thought that it was fraudulent or that it was just completely misleading. No one knew what to make of the graph. When they found the satellite pings, we realized that the plane did not fly directly over Indonesia and that the plane must have gone up and around Indonesia into the Nicobar Islands. This, to me, is absolute proof the videos are real. I mean, how can anyone explain that? The way the debunkers have tried to explain this away is they've claimed, well, here's a random blog post I found or a random news article talking about having random projections of the flight path on there because people were projecting it went north and went south or whatever else. So I guess the argument is that the hoaxer found a random article or a random blog and were like, this is the place I'm going to say the plane disappeared. For it to actually be the real location where the plane turned in the South Indian Ocean is too coincidental to dismiss, especially because there's 0 evidence, no witnesses that saw the plane in the South Indian Ocean. Keep in mind, the South Indian Ocean, when the plane was there, it was daytime. It was daytime. You're telling me nobody's seen a plane crash in the South Indian Ocean in the daytime along an active shipping route from Africa to Australia? But yet Catherine T on her tiny boat sees the plane in Nicobar Islands. So there you go. Okay, let's go. Let's watch some videos, guys. So let's start with the satellite video. Okay, so this is the newest, highest quality video. So this video is actually, it seems like this is the Regicide-Anon version. So on the plus side, this is the highest quality video that we've ever found. On the minus side, it begs the question on whether or not the Regicide-Anon stereoscopic, the first version we found from Regicide-Anon on the Wayback Machine is stereoscopic. If that's the original format or not, we don't know. End of the day, this is the highest quality version that we've got out there. You can also see this noise here in the background of this video, which seems like to me atmospheric interference from satellites that are trying to cut through the atmospheric interference, but I'm sure people will try to explain it away as compression. Now, when we see this plane, we see these clouds are cumulus clouds, which means they're low altitude clouds. That means this plane is low. Catherine T did not hear anything unusual. I asked her about that. So we see smoke coming out of the back of the plane here. Now, a big giveaway for the debunkers that shows that they are 100% dishonest is that they keep denying that this is smoke. Now, if debunkers were honest, they would admit that this cannot be contrails. But what you'll see is you'll often hear them deceptively lie. Like, and this is intentional with malice lying, that they'll claim that they'll keep using the word contrails. But factually speaking, it's literally impossible for these to be contrails. They can't be contrails because the plane is too low. Even in the most ideal situations, contrails can only form 18,000 feet and above. This plane, based on these clouds, is under 10,000 feet. Okay, probably at the ceiling, this is 10,000 feet. These low altitude clouds fly very low. And Rotary, I've seen what you've been saying. You're getting permanently banned. You're not allowed to speak on my channel. Okay. Now, keep in mind again, the debunkers keep saying that this cannot be smoke, but they don't have any actual reason for why it's not smoke. So if people are trying to gaslight you and lie to you, they're gonna do stuff like that because they want to manipulate the conversation. And so that's why they'll say stuff like contrails. I've heard Mick West say this repeatedly, even though he's been corrected that it cannot be contrails. Ironically, we have a post from Mick West where even he says the contrails can only form above 18,000 feet. And yet he intentionally lies about these videos. This shows intentional deception with malice. And the reason why I'm using the word with malice is for future lawsuits against the debunkers. I want the world to know that they intentionally lied knowingly about aspects related to these videos. Not just to discredit them, but because they should be sued and have everything taken from them using Sandy Hook as a precedent. And I don't mean that with prejudice. I just mean that because justice, that's why justice should be played out. So that cannot be contrails. It has to either be smoke or it has to be exhaust. But I don't think that this would look like that. I don't know that we'd even be able to see exhaust like this. And I think that it would dissipate a lot quicker as well. Now, keep in mind, this turn here is consistent with a Boeing 777 wall-in descent. So people have done we have satellite footage that shows based on the pixels that if the pixels are 1 meter per pixel, this is an accurate size of a Boeing 777, and that 1 meter per pixel is actually accurate to satellite capabilities as well, from what we would see here. Now, we see this first orb come in. It comes in at several thousand miles per hour. So right away, we're seeing an anomalous phenomenon, and it immediately gets into this circle orientation around the plane. The second orb comes here from the water. So people have asked, where do the orbs come from? I think the orbs could be coming from submarines. They could be coming from satellites. They could be coming from boats. They could be coming from airplanes. Really, they could be coming from any area. And since these are self-sustaining orbs, they can be shot out and sent out there. Now, how are they being controlled? Well, watch how fast this third one comes in, and they're getting into position way too quickly. Now they're clearly mapping the plane here. I think that that's the only explanation for what you're seeing here. I've never even heard anybody else come up with any alternative speculations. They're mapping the plane. This has got to be controlled by a computer or AI. This cannot be getting controlled by human beings. It's too accurate. It's too perfect. The orbs are roughly probably 30 meters in diameter, I think was the estimate that we found related to them. But the orbs are a field. This is not a metal ball. You're looking at a plasma field around them. So you're looking at something much smaller inside it, and you're looking at this field around them. Also, I want to point out, you see this mouse come over the screen here? This mouse right here in the bottom middle of this screen? This is consistent with a Citrix session being logged into the spy satellite database. Somebody is literally on a computer, and they have a larger field of view, right? And they've cropped it down with a screen recording. This is not something anybody would ever hoax into a hoax video. So again, we've got more smoking guns. Nobody is making a hoax video with a fake Citrix session logged into it. That's not a thing that ever happens. Also, because this is a larger field of view, nobody disagrees this is a larger field of view. This is very important to discredit the debunkers. The debunkers are claiming someone made a massive field of view, a huge, huge image, and they turned it into a video where they cropped it down like this. Now, when you stabilize this, you can tell right away that this is one continuous view, which proves that even if this was fake, that means somebody stitched together a giant field of view to fake this. Why would they do that? They would never do that. It makes no sense whatsoever. There's no hoax videos out there that do that. Never has existed. It's only consistent with a real Citrix session, somebody logged into a real spy satellite database that the world had no idea about. Okay. Now, the orbs change their orientation right here. And this goes to show at this point, they are now getting ready to induce this singularity right here. Yeah, if David Blaine came out and said he faked it, I would maybe think twice because that guy's smart as hell. But otherwise than that, there's no chance. Yeah, if you could see the whole video as well, you would be able to see the drone. So what we're going to see from the drone video in a second is the drone is basically in the middle of the screen, just cropped out of view here. You can tell because you can triangulate the position because the clouds match in both videos. Now, I also want to point out these clouds do move and they do evolve. If you don't think the clouds move, you don't understand satellite capabilities and you don't understand basic physics. If you have any question about that, just look at the clouds outside and ask yourself, in a 5-second window, do they look like they move? And then realize satellites are much further away than you staring out at your cloud. Okay? I'm not going to argue basic physics. The clouds move. We do have videos, evidence showing the clouds evolving, because the top of them evolves and moves. Okay? It's not a debatable point. It's a pure fact. Now, the orbs disappear this plane. You see it disappear in a flash. I tried to get it to snap there. This illumination here, you can actually see, if you look closely at this illumination, look at the clouds on the left. You can see the clouds. You can see the environment get accurately illuminated by the clouds. It's not just, or by the flash. It's not just the clouds. The whole environment gets accurately illuminated in the foreground, in the background, everywhere. This is not something that somebody's doing on Adobe After Effects, like especially not in 2014 with 2014 technology. I've seen the people that have tried to show that they could theoretically make this type of effect that's out there, and it doesn't illuminate the clouds the way that this does. And it goes to show that they don't ever go into that detail. They just make a little zap and they put it behind the cloud and they go, "Look, I can do that." That's not what that's not what this lighting is that we're seeing right here. I also talked to Bob Greenier, who has experience actually with video manipulation and VFX. And he said that while it's technically possible, it's extremely difficult. And he couldn't imagine somebody going to that level of lengths with this. And he's generally skeptical about the videos. He's not as gung-ho as you guys might imagine. Now, I think it's interesting here that the reason why this is teleportation is that the zap we see here is not big enough. If this was like a nuclear explosion or a nuclear event, half the planet's going to be destroyed by that. There's just that much mass going on. It's also not cloaking because, look, this smoke trail cuts off right there and stops. And the user scrolls over to the right. Now, if this was a fake video, this part would not be in the video. If the plane disappears, that's the end of your video. The video would stop. Why is someone scrolling over to the right? Because they want us to see there's no plane over here. And then watch the mouse. So right here, the mouse comes from the bottom left side of the screen, goes up to the top right, goes off the screen in the top right, and it presses the stop record button. Why is this important? The stop record button is somewhere over here on the top right. Right there. Now watch this. In the beginning, where does the mouse come from? It comes from the top right. So they press start record in the top right over here. The mouse comes off from the top right, the exact same location. You see here over on the right next to my right. Where is it? Right here, this mouse. This mouse comes from the top right side of the screen. There it is. You see it? Now watch at the end again. Where does the mouse go? It goes off the screen at the top right, the exact same location where it came from when it came in. This goes to show that somebody pressed stop and start record in the top right of the screen. Again, this is not something that a hoaxer would come up with. If this was a fake hoax video, there would be no need to have the mouse going up to the same exact location. That's a very important detail right there. It goes to show this is a real Citrix session. Somebody's really on a computer, and they're actually pressing a start record and a stop record button. Now, debunkers are going to have no way to argue against most of this evidence. One thing I want to point out here before I go to the second video is that debunkers have literally argued that their logic is that as long as they poke one hole in your story, everything is fake. That's how they think logic works. Now, that's not how logic and rationality actually work. So again, this goes to show their dishonest intent. Eric Weinstein talks about this in the video about the midwits, which I'll play for you guys right now, because debunkers are literally midwits. They're literally just morons who don't understand how logic.
Epidemic we have is assassins. We have an assassin epidemic because the midwits in the system, all they do is see things in terms of like Dunning-Kruger, Dunning-Kruger, Dunning-Kruger. The funny part about it is that that's the midwits endpoint, is that they see heterodox thinkers and they can't figure.
Heterodox thinkers are people that think outside the box, people that don't think in terms of the orthodoxy, the people that can think
out how to place them. And so they just say, if I can find one error, I can reject everything.
There it was, right? If I can find one error, I can reject everything. Whoops. This is exactly how the debunker's logic works. They admit to it as well. That's the funny part. They're so stupid that they actually admit that this is their logic, which is not. Eric Weinstein just pointed out how that logic is not sound, doesn't have merit. Okay. Now let's keep going to the next video. So that's the first video. Now, who's recording this? The United States government. How do we know that? A, we have the top satellite capabilities in the entire world, bar none. B, the second video is an MQ-1C General Atomics, which is the United States government, I believe U.S. Navy. Other people in the military may have access to them. I don't know, but I think the Navy is the one that controls this. So that's the reason why we know the United States government is implicated. The same way where if all of a sudden some videos came out of a murder, you'd want to know who was filming that, right? They would be the top suspect. And now why were they filming? Well, they're filming because they want to get intelligence. When you watch this video, this is the intelligence video. This is the video that you record because you're going to send this back to the engineers and you're going to say, how do you make this better? This video right away, we see, and by the way, this video, no one has even come remotely close to trying to debunk this video. In fact, nobody's been able to even come close to recreating this video, even using today's software. No one's even come remotely close to be able to get the correct movements of the Boeing 777. Even the VFX artist for Top Gun Maverick posted on a Reddit post early on, said that was the hardest part about that movie, Top Gun Maverick. And I watched that movie recently. So if this is VFX, this is better than major studio VFX. The camera is shaking accurately here. You see this camera shake? You're going to notice the camera shake increases as they zoom in. Why? The same way if I were recording something and I zoom in, even small shakes in the camera are going to get more and more and bigger and bigger. Yeah, even the Corridor crew, who has how many followers they have? Millions? They couldn't even come close to recreating this. Their recreation was so bad that it's clear that they gave up early on because they knew there was no chance they were going to be able to recreate it. And instead, they just went down the ridicule route because that's what stupid people do. They ridicule, right? Smart people use logic and reason. Also, I want to point out the Corridor crew did literally zero forensic analysis on this video. None. No forensic analysis whatsoever. They basically just read Mick West's blog on his Metabunk blog post and just took some of those ideas and pretended like they were their own. Under no circumstances are the Corridor crew serious people. They basically appeal to little children. And they're definitely not experts on this video in any way, shape, or form. Now you can see the same orbs. Now, both of these videos line up exactly. Some people have tried to claim they don't line up. Somebody actually did like this analysis where you can like put little boxes around the orbs and you find out they do line up. I looked very detailed at them to try to find, is there any discrepancy? Couldn't find any obvious discrepancy at all anywhere between them. So also what you're going to hear is you'll hear the debunkers lie and say the videos aren't in sync. But then if you just ask them for evidence, they don't have any. They don't have any evidence. So anytime you hear people lying to you and making statements that are knowably untrue or stuff that they couldn't know, you should be very, very cautious in general. I'm not even going to go through all the debunks here as well. We're just not going to have time tonight because we only have like an hour left. But just look at the detail of the orb movements. It's wild. The orbs as well. It's hard to see in this version, but the black lines are one of the biggest details. The black lines are in front of the orbs, and this cool black line. This is consistent with them making space, literally space, in front of them to fall down it. Like if you ever play the game Shoot the Moon, and you pull apart the metal poles and make the ball roll up. You know, you make the ball roll up and you pull the poles apart. It's just like that. Just like that. So the orbs are being pulled forward here by these geodesic. This is the reason why they're able to basically have zero inertia. They can just move whatever direction they want because they're making space in front of them. It's not that the orbs are moving. They're actually pulling space around them like a conveyor belt. Like when you're on the conveyor belt, you can stand on the conveyor belt and you move even though you're not moving. It's the same idea, but they're doing it with space. This is not a new detail. This is also something nobody's ever debunked, like basically any aspects of this video. They've tried to debunk the zap that we see right here, but it doesn't actually match. They've actually now come to admit that it doesn't match. Their argument in a second is that the zap has been that somebody took an asset that doesn't match and they manipulated it all around and changed all the frames around and every aspect of the asset, which that's never been done in any major use of that specific asset ever. So anyway, let's keep going on this. I also want to point out, while you see these orbs spinning around here, you can see this heat signature. This heat signature is consistent with a theoretical magnetic monopole. And the science behind this wasn't even publicly available until 2015. Wasn't even available until 2015. Also, the smoke here. Very important detail on the smoke. Notice the smoke. You can see the smoke here. You can see it in the middle of the plane here. It's not lined up with the engines. This proves it's not contrails. If this was contrail, this would be coming from the engine. Instead, it looks like what's happening is this heat signature in the belly of the plane. The smoke is wrapping around the hull and then coming off both sides of the hull of the plane to make it look similar to what contrails would look like. There are two heat release valves, AC release valve or AC heat exhaust ports next to the landing gear on either side of the plane. There's also, I looked up recently, there's a couple ways to depressurize the plane to pull smoke out. One of them's in the back of the plane here, about halfway between the heat signature and the tail of the plane. So there you go. Yeah, you can definitely tell here that this smoke is not coming from the engine. Very clearly. You would see a big distortion around the engine if smoke was billowing out of the engine as well. And this heat signature, watch the heat signature morph as well. This is something that, as far as I can tell, is not possible to be faked. I posted about this earlier on. If this was just like a heat signature from a fake video, it would be more uniform. It wouldn't be changing. Like, what did somebody do? Change every single frame? How much work and detail did they put in to have this morphing heat signature? Like, look at that heat signature morph in the middle. And now here, and we're going to go to the slow-mo in a second, but I want you to realize this event that happens in like 0.1 or 0.2 seconds. Like the snap of a finger. That's how fast that occurs. The visual effect that they claim was used to make that is much longer. It's much slower than that is as well. It's not even the same speed either. Also, it doesn't even have the same number of frames. What we just saw there has 4 frames. And the visual effect they claim to use, I believe, has like 6 or 8, maybe more. Somewhere in that range. Now, they also add this slow-mo parts in here. This is part of the original video. We didn't manipulate this. They wanted people to see how realistic this is. Now, right in the beginning of this slow-mo, the orbs reorient. Now, I mapped it out, and these orbs right here, they're reorienting. See how they blur right there for a second? Right here, they're blurring. They're blurring because they're reorienting, and we know because we have the heat signature that we can see. They reorient the same time in the satellite video. The orbs slow down while they're spinning around the plane right before the zap happens. These two things are happening both at the same time. That's another weird detail to synchronize between 2 videos. And then what do? They converge. This is consistent with Coulomb's law. Coulomb's law would say as the charges get closer together, you're going to have an exponential increase in force because the equation for Coulomb's law has distance squared in the denominator. So as that number gets smaller and smaller, your force value goes up, 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 up exponentially. So there you go. Watching the zap is mind-blowing, honestly, when I watch this. The last thing I'm going to point out here, in the final frame before the zap, right here, you can see the plane blur. The plane actually gets a little bit smaller, and you can see lensing happening, like gravitational lensing with the orbs. The orbs are flattening. This is exactly what you would expect to see if light is being bent by a very powerful electromagnetic field. So you can imagine drawing a little azimuth around connecting the orbs, and then you're going to have your Tor -1. So there's a torus creating the field in the plasma fields, and then you have this torus above them that's being created by the 3 orbs connecting basically to create this field. And then if you use the right-hand rule in physics, and you look at the plane from the front, and you see the orbs are spinning clockwise. You use the right-hand rule, you find the vector direction of the travel of the plane is backwards. So we know we mapped out the satellite video, and we can tell that in the satellite video, the plane's going to the east. That means if it's getting pulled backwards, it's going to the west. This is going to be important. Okay. Now, in this frame here, you can see the tail of the plane sticking out a little bit here. I don't know if this is like not like a reflection or like a shadow version of the tail of the plane or what, but you can see this like imprint of the tail of the plane. And it's a little bit further back than where the plane just was. The plane was just here. So it does look like the plane's being sucked backwards as well here. Yeah, ripping apart the matrix is actually a pretty good layman's analysis of what's happening here. This is a phase state transition. It's like you're ripping a hole, you're extracting that energy from that location, and then for just a brief second, you're seeing this negative entropy, this cold, dark event happen. This is like consistent with a wormhole, actually. It's actually consistent with a real wormhole. There's no event horizon. That's the main difference between a black hole and a wormhole. And then you see this self-correcting mechanism. So it breaks the Schwinger limit. The Schwinger limit says space becomes nonlinear. What does nonlinear space look like? It looks like what you just saw right there. And then what happens? It becomes linear again like that. The moment the field is gone, it's like space is like correcting itself. Space-time is correcting itself. Okay. Let's dig into the evidence now. Okay. We've got about an hour. We're going to have to go through this kind of quickly. I don't know that the event killed everybody, but I do think that the smoke probably killed everybody. You know what? I'm going to go through that real quick right now because a lot of people like, what happened to these people? Did they survive? And to me, I think the biggest question, I think that in order for this big cover up, I think that if anybody survived, there's very few people that survived. I think that something either went wrong or was unexpected here. Or maybe it was intentional that the people die. I don't know. But what we found out from the South Korea lithium ion battery fire is that just 2 inhalations of this toxic smoke and you're out. That's how fast it is. So you could imagine if some people got low in the airplane, like the smartest thing to do would be to put your gas mask on or your oxygen mask and then get as low to the ground as possible because the toxic smoke is going to be rise because it's hotter. And you might not even be able to tell, but if you start breathing that in, you're going to be out and that's it. Game over. You're never waking up ever again. So you can imagine that if the smoke is going through the air conditioning system and it start pouring out through all those vents that they have up there, people are going to start passing out quickly. So I think, in my opinion, the smoke is probably what took people out. Although people may have been fine for like 30 minutes, but once the oxygen masks start to fail, once the smoke starts permeating throughout the cabin, you're into a really bad situation. I think that some people could have survived, but probably a bunch of people did not. And then that's even before we get to the zap. And it's hard to say whether or not people could survive the zap. But like the Philadelphia experiment shows, if we can teleport something, you don't want to be touching the walls. And it's still pretty sketchy. Like maybe people aren't going to come all back together the way that we thought, right? I don't think that black holes can be used as wormholes. I think they're just an analog. So they're similar, but the fact that there's an event horizon, the amount of gravity is detrimental. You can't escape the black hole. That's the problem. But who knows? We don't know that much about black holes yet. Why did they go all this effort and risk exposure? So this was definitely an intelligence agency operation. And we're going to get to the Freescale semiconductor engineers. They're definitely the motive. There's just nothing else that makes any sense. I've learned beyond any doubt that the secret to this technology is plasma physics and semiconductors. Semiconductors are extremely important. Powerful, tiny microchips that are as big as your nail or smaller. In fact, Freescale Semiconductors had just come out with a microchip that was smaller than the dimple in a golf ball, a transistor. Thing is, it's extremely tiny. This is the next level of warfare, is microchips. So you can imagine these people are working. We're going to get to that. We'll get to that, guys. Okay, so here we go. Dude, I already said KT didn't hear anything. Okay. Here we go. Let's get to showing this. Okay, so if you have questions, try to ask them when we get to the part related to whatever you're asking the question on. Okay. But I will try to monitor their chat from here on out. We're going to probably skip through a lot of the stuff that I just addressed. How do you think that the video clips were going to get out? Keep in mind, in 2014, Wi-Fi on board the planes was not nearly as prevalent as it is today. I mean, they might have had it. I don't know if anyone's looked into that actually, but there's not that many ways to actually get out communications while you're in an airplane in the sky. That may even be part of the reason why they did this to the airplane. Yeah, we will talk about the Jeff Wood picture as well, or the Philip Wood picture. This document is already public. I will go ahead and share it with you guys right now. Well, that's whatever. I don't care about that email address. By the way, if you email me on that email address you saw, you definitely won't get a response. It's pretty much my burner account. Okay. So don't bother there. Here's the link to the document where you can check it out. Can't be manipulated, but you can watch and follow along yourself if you guys want. I will also put a Discord invite at the end as well. Yeah, Wi-Fi was available. It's just a matter of like how widely used was it. Like it wasn't probably till 2018 or so where Wi-Fi started getting really popular on planes and more prevalent. And back then, before then as well, people didn't always use it because it wasn't very reliable either. It used to be garbage in the beginning. So here's the links to the videos. I'm not going to go through them, but this is the dates where they were uploaded. I already mentioned a lot of this. It also says received March 12th on this first video, which to me is extremely damning. One of the things that you can constantly nail debunkers with is you say, why did Regicide Anon say that it was received March 12th, 2014 in their description? Because if Regicide Anon was just somebody who was re-uploading the video, then why would they lie about this? It makes no sense at all. There's only two possibilities that make sense related to this thing that you see right over here. One, Regicide Anon was the hoaxer. Regicide Anon was in on the hoax, and they are trying to confuse people to make people think this is MH370, so they add this date of March 12th. The second one is that that's actually when the video was received, and that somebody leaked this video, and Regicide Anon got a hold of it, and Regicide Anon didn't know what the hell they were looking at. Because we looked at that satellite video, most people don't know what the hell they're looking at. And they probably had to be convinced, like, hey, this is actually MH370. This isn't a joke. Like, that's what this is. And then later on, they post the video because they weren't sure. The second video received June 5th, uploaded June 12th. So then you have to contend with this as well. So did they lie about this as well? If they were lying, why would they not put received March 12th, 2014 on the second video? Why did they say that they received the second video like over 2 weeks after the first video was already published? Because this shows a timeline. This shows that somebody leaked the first video, which has absolute proof in the form of the coordinates in it, and then they released the second video later on. That goes to show that they said, okay, one video is not enough. Okay, I've got a second video in perfect synchronization from a completely different angle. The irony is debunkers like Mick West, we've got them on the record. It was in the thread that I reposted, saying that the perfect situation would be two different videos from two different angles of the same event. And that's what we have here. And what did Mick West do? He said that he wouldn't even look at it for months. And then after I got very popular, he comes out of the woodwork to try to discredit it. That's pretty damning, guys. Pretty damning. Definitely makes you wonder about Mick West's motivations for sure, and whether or not he's connected to intelligence agencies. I don't think that he is. I think he's just an idiot, but it does make you wonder for sure. Okay, so to understand these videos are real, you need to know about the DoD Navy videos from 2017. Look at this Trump satellite picture. This USA 224 here is one of the last optical telescope or satellites that we have out there. The United States only has 5 optical satellites left. 5. We have dozens, if not hundreds, of satellites up there. And there's only 5 that are optical. This USA 224 is one of them. You can actually see this is a low Earth orbit satellite. So people say, how can you take images when you're moving at 16,000 miles an hour, which low Earth orbit satellites do? This is proof that you can. In fact, people thought this image was fake. They actually thought this image was fake. Experts, literal experts, thought this image was fake because there wasn't enough distortion and atmospheric interference. They expected there to be more. So this tells us the United States government has better satellite capability than what the experts are currently aware of today. This is very important because the satellite videos, most likely satellite data is being sent to ground-based computers to build a virtual map. That's how you get around satellite or atmospheric interference, is that you build this satellite video based off of infrared and radar satellite capabilities, which is what almost all of our satellites that are up there are infrared and radar now. Pretty cool, huh? Okay. The other things that you need to know, these advanced theoretical concepts such as wormholes. I'm actually going to add wormholes to the list. Humanly traversable wormholes are a very important aspect of this because the science around humanly traversable wormholes did not come out until 2020. 2020, 6 years after these videos. Thank you, TH600 Mike. Love you, brother. Thank you very much. ER equals EPR is the... Oh, hold on. ER equals EPR is the idea of a wormhole being consistent and equivalent to quantum entanglement. So why is quantum entanglement a thing? Can we entangle more than just electrons or photons? And the answer is yes, we probably can. I showed a New Scientist article that was from 2002 by a guy who won the Nobel Prize for proving Einstein wrong in quantum mechanics. The God does play dice, it turns out. Bose-Einstein condensate. Guys, knowing what I know now, I was so accurate. It's crazy how close I was. Bose-Einstein condensates, like stuff like helium-3, lithium-6, that they can be super cooled, and then they become quantum macroscopic. They basically become a weird liquid. Pretty wild stuff. You also need to know about LK99 and room temperature, high temperature superconductivity. If you look at the Meissner effect, you'll see magnetic fields bend around your object. How is the magnetic field bending around that object? It can actually allow a rock to levitate over a magnet because the magnetic field lines are bending around it. That right there, once you see that video, you guys should right away, and I'll play the video for you guys just so you can see. This should instill inspiration in everybody who watches this. Just look at that's a rock. That's just a rock like on the ground, but it's made up of LK99, and it's super conductive. And we know that because we're seeing the Meissner effect here. Now, some people say, well, it's just very strong diamagnetism. Okay, well, at some point, there's a difference without a distinction. You can see when you move the magnet, the rock moves too. That shows that there's flux pinning happening there. It's not perfectly pure, and that's the reason why it's being stuck with the flux pinning. And they show that there's no strings. I mean, they put a loop over it right here, right? This should really wake people up. Okay, there we go. Also, they could take that magnet and they could put it over the top of it, and the rock would still levitate there. That's the coolest part about the flux pinning, in my opinion. Okay. And then lastly, AI and quantum computers. What are quantum computers being used for? Love this comment. What are quantum computers being used for? Why are we building all these quantum computers? How long has the military had quantum computers? I would argue that we're probably using quantum computers to pull off what you see in those videos. I can't really put the connection there, but probably. Now, these videos are proven to go back to 2014. The satellite perspective we saw shifts 8 times, which shows that, you know, there's another reason why you're not going to see a lot of cloud movement is because we're seeing a zoomed in perspective and it's shifting. The coordinates prove that's the Nicobar Islands. We see this General Atomics Gray Eagle. There's a couple different variants that have the same body shape there, the chases. So we can't be 1,000% sure. It doesn't really matter, but it's definitely, all of them are United States military drones. The Cope Tiger exercises I talked about. The purpose of SIBRs and signals intelligence, which is SIGINT. So SIBRs is a space-based infrared system. That's our satellite. It's a constellation of satellites. That's how we work now. Tracking boats, planes, electronic signals monitoring, intelligence, and battlefield awareness. So the whole point of this system is exactly what we see in this video. The SIBRs video from Lockheed Martin, there's a link right here for it if you guys want to see that. I don't think we're going to watch it right now, but basically they're scanning the whole world all the time. Thank you, Enchanted Nightbird. Appreciate you. To me, this SIBRs video was kind of the nail in the coffin that showed that what we're looking at there is some type of satellite capability that we just don't know about. This Lockheed Martin video predates the videos, and the SIBR system was fully operational in 2013. So pretty cool. Thank you. You guys are showing a lot of love. I appreciate it. If you have your questions as well, I'll try to address any questions we get on here. Okay, I talked about the clouds moving. I'm just going to skip through the stuff that I've already addressed here. The mouse moving. I'm just going to see. Yeah, so the reason why it's a Citrix session is the background is 6 frames per second, but the actual mouse is 24 frames per second. And the reason why it's 6 frames per second is the high field of view requires a huge amount of processing to render. So I've been playing Minecraft, and when you play Minecraft, if you extend how many blocks you can see, the game slows down a little bit. Same idea here. The wider your field of view, if you're on a computer and you're trying to render this huge field of view and you're pulling that data from satellites, this is why you're going to have this 6 frames per second. So MH370 videos were being conducted remotely from the U.S., or would they need to have a more localized control unit? The answer to that is we don't know. But they definitely were either pre-programmed or they were actively controlled by a computer. It's hard to say. My guess would be there's some kind of pre-programming homing mechanism because the first orb doesn't get like it kind of circles next to the plane and then it circles around the plane. So it goes like this. And then the second and third orbs get right into location. Not only do the second and third orbs lock in, they lock in the perfect equilateral triangle. So it's like they know exactly where to go, which tells me that the first orb is trying to figure out where to like paint the plane to lock in. And then the other orbs are just lining up immediately. So hopefully that answers that question. 4 orbs Minecraft server soon. Maybe, guys. That would actually be kind of fun. Metamaterials development, guys. Like I don't know. I probably won't talk much about the metamaterials development. There's definitely a lot related to metamaterials, but it goes way beyond just LK99 is what I realized. Like metamaterial development in general is very advanced and very important, but we'll see. Okay. Yeah, Patrick, I love that that Patrick and I have like gone from being like enemies to being like good friends now, which is pretty awesome. I saw a lot of negative comments, which is fine. I don't really care. I think people are just upset because the nature of these videos is so mind-blowing to them that they feel like they have to lash out, you know. People talk about way crazier stuff, like stuff that's way more out there than the stuff that I talk about. And they don't get even a fraction of the hate that I get, which tells me that I'm definitely over the target on this in general. Have I looked into the signs of cold fusion? Yes, I do believe that the orbs in the video are showing signs of cold fusion as well. So if you want to know about cold fusion, you should look into Salvatore Pais' compressed fusion device. Basically takes magnets and it compresses the plasma into a specific point, which then theoretically can produce over unity. It's very similar conceptually to how the tokamaks are working. And now there's been advancements in cold fusion where we're extremely close. Like getting high temperature superconductive magnets is one of the big things to be able to pull off cold fusion. I think the military has already pulled it off. The public will get there probably, I would say in the next 10 years, it's going to start getting real serious for cold fusion. I also think that all over unity concepts, including cold fusion, are related to the idea of the space-time ether. You're extracting 0-point energy from the ether, essentially. And that's how you're able to achieve over unity. It's like you're creating a well and you're tapping into the oil that's in the reserves. It's simply in an area that we don't perceive, and an extra dimension, if you want to think of it like that. Okay. Let's keep going. Oh, yeah. So the other thing, too, is the satellite video was not recorded in real time. We know that because this person's doing this screen recording. You can't pull all this off in real time. Now, that also is further evidence that what they're looking at there is computer-rendered tracking system. The computer-rendered tracking system is a satellite video that can track any object you want to see. And you can go back in time and you can look at it. This basically says that there's no privacy anywhere left on Earth, anywhere. Because satellites aren't just only working in real time. They're recording the data, sending to computers, they're saving that data forever, and they can pull it back up. You want to know why they're building those giant warehouses? It's not just to track you and steal your personal information and to make little things about you. It's also for those satellites. Because that takes a huge amount of video of information. The drone was probably deployed from, let's say, could have been from Car Nicobar, could have been from Port Blair, or pre-planned operation. Let's say could have been from the military exercises as well. So the question really is, was this a situation where the fire event was accidental and then the United States government tried to save the plane because it was doomed and it couldn't land for whatever reason at Penang? Or was this pre-planned from the beginning? I think that the preponderance of the evidence says it was pre-planned from the beginning. It fits with more evidence. More evidence gets pulled into the fold if it was an espionage or counter-espionage event. Probably could have come from a carrier as well, but I'm guessing that it was already in the area and they had it ready to go for this event. Because otherwise you only have an hour and 20 minutes to get the drone up and in the air, which is possible, but that's a pretty quick response time. But the direction is consistent because we can tell where the drone is consistent with the drone coming from Car Nicobar, Port Blair. This is in the Nicobar Islands there. It's coming from somewhere in the Nicobar Islands, which are these joint military bases between India and United States at those locations. Oh, yeah. Okay, I already said thank you for that one. I said thank you for that one. Thank you, Ware3, for the donation for Lulu Treats. She appreciates it. She's sleeping right there. Actually, I might show her in a minute. Okay, we'll see. That was nice of you. Oh, yeah, we're going to have to add the hydroacoustic stations. Yeah, we're going to have to add that data. Thank you. We'll add that when we get down somewhere else in here. Cardiff University. There's a Cardiff University scientific paper. So we're going to have to add the AWACS. Okay, what else? We believe that USA 229 is the satellite pair that was producing this. There's a flyover right here where you can kind of see the thumbnail right here. If you click on this link, you can check it out. But USA 229 objectively is a low Earth orbit satellite pair, 2 satellites, and they were in the right location to be able to send data related to this from those coordinates at the right time. So, I mean, we have another smoking gun there. We have low Earth orbit satellites staring right down at the location at the right time where the plane supposedly turned into the South Indian Ocean 20 minutes after we supposedly lost radar contact. You tell me those just magically didn't see the plane? No chance. So we already know the United States, and that's basically proof the United States government knows what happened to this plane. And then the question is, why are they lying about it? The only reason why they would lie about it is because these videos are real. Like, what we see in those videos are real. They stole the plane. That's why you lie about not knowing what happened to the plane. If Russia took this plane, China took this plane, if it was any kind of accident, the United States government would just tell the truth. Even if aliens zapped the plane, the United States government probably would tell the truth. Although you could argue that they would hide it in this case where aliens have zapped the plane. Yeah, nobody took credit for this. Nobody has copyright striked this as well. I'm going to point that out. Nobody's ever copied. I uploaded these videos on my YouTube channel, and I've technically been making money off of them, although not a lot. So, nobody's copyright strike that. Smarter Every Day copyright striked me in under 12 hours for posting a clip of their smoke rings. And yet nobody's ever copyright striked me for these. It does say NROL 22, which is the first launch of the SBIR system. So in the bottom left of the satellite video, it says NROL 22, and then you see the coordinates. This is the first launch of the SBIR system in 2006. You can find a Newsweek debunk, and the Newsweek debunk has the only fact wrong in it. The fact in the Newsweek debunk claims it says NROL 33, but it actually says NROL 22. Goes to show you that mainstream media is dead. Okay, we're going to sentient AI has been declassified, and this AI is actually used to operationalize satellites for multi-entity resolution, which is multi-intelligence entity resolution. So again, this right here indicates that what we're looking at: satellite video, geolocation, and tracking. Also, debunkers are going to argue that I've seen this argument, which is absurd, that they say you can't make the cloud images that were found on the internet back in December. You can't make them from the video that we were watching. Well, that's a stupid argument because, and they say, oh, the video is lower quality than the pictures, therefore the pictures can't come from the video, but they can come from the original source. So the counter to that argument, if anyone wants to know, is you just say, what's higher quality, a commercial Canon camera or a fucking spy satellite imagery? Of course, the spy satellite imagery is much higher resolution and quality than any type of commercially available camera. So if, in my opinion, the images, the cloud images, if they're fabricated and planted on the internet, they would have had to have been done by intelligence community, the same people that pulled this operation off, and they would have injected the images into a set of images that was already out there, or they would have added them to a set. Like either you create 5 new images from scratch, or you have images there and you replace the old image with that new image, you know, one way or another. I think it's like injecting it onto it. I don't know much about hacking. I do know that the Vault 7 leaks, which I believe were from WikiLeaks, basically prove that the intelligence agencies have access to any device that's connected to the internet, even your refrigerators, anything that's a smart device. Every single device is out there. Okay, so we talked about this, the fake video requirements. So this is really important, guys. If you think these videos are fake, here's the list of requirements. If you have any other ones for me to add, let me know. Unclaimed $150,000 bounties. Now, I want to point out, I've seen some people lying about this bounty, even though I've clarified it about 1,000 times. Yeah. I'll go into that in a second. Actually, here's a good question on the cloud thing. Some clouds were stitched together from different clouds in the photos. Why would a hoaxer do that? If somebody found some cloud images and then they made a video out of them, why did the hoaxer do this? So this point is funny because this actually discredits the fact that they were faked. You're not going to go through the effort of moving a cloud from one image to another spot. It's because the images were generated from the original footage. And the thing is here is that what if they just used AI to generate the images? You say, here's my higher resolution image from my satellite. Give me 5 images related to it. You tell the AI to do that for you. And AI puts the images together. What does AI do? AI messes up and moves one of the clouds from one of the images to the other. There you go. I mean, AI does stuff like that all the time. To me, that's actually a sign of AI. You're definitely not going to see a human being take one image from a cloud image and then move it somewhere else and stretch it out. Why would they do that? Why would a hoaxer do that? In fact, that's funny because when I heard this argument, I realized that's actually more evidence that the videos are real. TH600 Mike says the intelligence agencies have the biggest collection of zero-day exploits anywhere. Yeah, this is true. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Yeah, the amount of minute details that debunkers and think that these hoaxer went through is insane. Now, let's just look through the rest of this as well. Unclaimed $150,000 bounty. This bounty was for proof of the source work or draft work. So this was not for somebody to debunk the videos. There was never, ever out there, nobody ever claimed that the bounty was to debunk the videos. The bounty was for the hoaxer to come forward with absolute proof and say, here's my source work I did. The way Kim.com phrased it, and I have on the record stating this, was for somebody to come up with the videos that don't have the plane or don't have the orbs in them. Because the idea would be you would add the plane, then you add the orbs spinning around it. You know, you layer the stuff into it, especially if you're starting with a background of some clouds. So there would be source work. You're not just going to come up with your final product in one shot. Anybody who's ever done any type of work on anything knows that you don't get to the final product in one go. You have a bunch of ways that you're building up to that, and you save those because you don't want to lose your work. And then you add on to it. You might go back to it, etc. So you're going to see a lot of people, especially on Reddit, you'll see people lie about this and claim that, actually, I think I saw just the other day when I was looking through that one thread that I posted, people claim that I didn't pay out the bounty and I backtracked on it. No, the videos were never debunked. Nobody ever debunked the videos, and no hoaxer ever came forward. A few people, like 3 or 4 different people, tried to lie and claim that they were the ones who made the videos. All the stories fell apart immediately. None of them had a shred of evidence. Anyone who thinks that, like Joe Lancaster, I'm going to call him out because he came out and lied about having made the videos and tied his real name to it. Anyone who thinks that he made the videos is a complete idiot. We looked into his background. There's no evidence whatsoever. Even the project that he claimed that they made this for, there's no video to go along with the project. He's not even listed in the project. Like, zero evidence. Joe Lancaster is 1,000% a piece of shit liar. And honestly, I hope it impacts his future job, because if you're going to come out and lie about having made videos that you didn't make, like, that's a real garbage move. Real garbage human being stuff. And even the debunkers have finally now admitted that Joe Lancaster didn't make it, because we looked through his Reddit history and we found out that he was speaking about himself in the third person. So he decided one day he was going to pretend like he made the videos. And then people found his post history and found out that he was talking about, oh, these videos are obviously fake because of this or that. If you were the person who made them, that's not how you'd be speaking about the videos. And he would have been able to point out, one thing that I pointed out was that if anybody had faked the videos, they would know about small details that they had added that we had not found. One of those details was that the orbs, actually, I'm going to add this in here. This is a good one. Satellite video orb displaces the smoke with accurate fluid dynamics. So they would have known about this detail that we only found out recently. TH Mike, thank you very much. Appreciate you, brother. I'm going to post this video so you can watch this. It's only a few seconds. Oh, God, we only have 20 minutes. I don't know if we're going to make it through the whole thing, guys. I want to end when the debate space starts up so people can listen to the debate space as well. So this video right here is proof that the orb, look at that. The orb displaces the smoke with accurate fluid dynamics. It's impossible for this to be compression. If anyone says this is compression, you know right away they don't know what they're talking about. Compression happens when you lower the quality of a video and you lose details. You don't gain details when videos are compressed. That's not how they work. A detail like this cannot be from compression. So the debunkers have no explanation for this whatsoever. It's just denial. But you can just see with your own eyes right here that that's accurate displacement of the smoke. With accurate fluid dynamics. I had multiple people that are experts in computer fluid dynamics that pointed out that this is accurate. So this is probably one of the best smoking guns that we have out there because it proves that the orbs are physical objects and they weren't added in post afterwards. So there is no version of this video like Kim.com asked for that doesn't have the orbs in them, because there you go right there. This is also not a detail that somebody would add it. It's very hard to see in the original without the color changing because the colors are so similar to one another. And if somebody was a hoaxer, they would have known about this detail, because why would you go through this insane amount of effort to add this tiny detail in here? So if you're the hoaxer, you'd be like, oh, yeah, so you should look at second 16 where I added this super minute detail. It took me like 5 days to come up with. Right? Okay, so there you go on that one. Okay, so I'm gonna go through the rest of these pretty quick. You only have between 4 and 72 days, depending on whether or not you think Regicide Anon was the hoaxer, because of what I just mentioned about the dates. There you go. There's no reference copy. There's nothing that like, oh, this is where they pulled this video from, right, or anything like that. There's also nothing even close to those dark trails around the orbs. The closest it comes for a reference copy is the people that claim that the satellite video has the background that matches the images. Some people have claimed that there's models that match the videos. Well, that's just a stupid argument because it's a real Boeing 777. So a model of a real Boeing, oh, sorry, I don't have this up. So a model of a real Boeing 777 is going to match a Boeing 777, at least I hope it does. And even when they put the model in their satellite video recreation, it doesn't actually match our video, which they can't explain, actually, because they're the ones who claim that the model was used, but it doesn't match. And then the drone as well is they claim that there's a model that matches it, but it's funny because they block out some of the parts that don't match in the model. They're always very deceptive about what debunkers show you. They never show you their full work. They always just show you like their end product. And when they manipulate the VFX, that's the same thing as well. They only show you the end product. They don't ever show you how they got there. How to create realistic volumetric clouds, because these clouds are real. Actually, everybody admits what we're looking at are real clouds at this point, so we don't even have to argue that anymore. There's the ZAP, the accurate. This is environmental accurate illumination, not even just clouds, but the environment is accurately illuminated by this. Exactly what MH370 looked like. Here's the background of my my banner. The turning capabilities. So you have to be an engineer, basically. You'd have to know the capability, military classified capabilities about using the Citrix session, how and why you would make it look like a cropped video recording from a much bigger field of view. The weather actually matches in the Nicobar Islands as well. They have this low altitude clouds according to the weather in that time period within 15 minutes, I believe we found. You'd have to know about the fire scenario, how to create the smoke, how to create the heat signature in the belly of the plane. A lot of these points nobody has any argument against. Accurate camera shake. When they zoom in, that camera shakes as well. You have to know what the false color infrared looks like. That's actually nighttime in these videos as well. And yes, you can make nighttime look like daytime. There's a lot of technology that can actually do it today. It's pretty wild how powerful it is. Okay, here's some of the other stuff I already mentioned. Jeffrey Ford, top VFX effort. I'm going to change this lead. We're going to change it to lead editor. I guess that's his official title. But he's technically over the VFX team as well. Yeah, people didn't know it was nighttime. It's actually nighttime in the videos. It's easier to tell in the drone video. The satellite video, though, since it's a computer render, it can basically be, they can make it look however they want. But we have shown, I have shown evidence that like you can take pitch black nighttime and you can see the blue sky. They can literally, night vision can actually do that now. Pretty wild. Better understanding of science than the PhDs, monopoles. You'd have to know about. I think I already mentioned about this. You also have to know we're never going to find the plane even 10 years later. Very big. Okay, so I went through the flight path. I'm just going to see if there's anything else in the flight path. No, do we have the emergency descent? I'm going to change the radar. Radar. So the radar shows the plane made an emergency descent when it turned around. The armed forces knew much earlier that the aircraft could have turned back. That is why the search was expanded to include the Straits of Malacca. So why were they lying? The military knew and they lied. The military did not confirm this until much later due to resistance from senior officers, and the government needed to step in. We wasted our time in the South China Sea. That's pretty wild, guys. Why would you do that? There's a Wired article that argues that the plane turning back to heading Penang is consistent with an electrical fire. Now, what we know now is it's not just an electrical fire. It's actually a lithium-ion battery fire. And the amount of lithium-ion batteries are 487 pounds. We're going to get to that in a minute. Let's see. Oh, yeah, they stop recording. Let me add this. Okay, let's see. I don't think the orbs are going to be like larger on the inside than the outside. I don't think it's like that kind of situation. Hard to say though. I mean, I can't say with certainty. Okay, so why did the plane not crash in the South Indian Ocean? No debris field. So you shouldn't really have to look further than that. Can you sue the American government for this? I don't think I have standing to sue them. Like, what am I suing them for? That's the hard part. Crimes against humanity? I mean, it's a stretch for sure. We might look into that sometime, but I'm not really interested in like exposing my own government. Like, I kind of understand why they did this. I just want the world to know about the technology. Also, nobody's going to face consequences for this, guys. Like, that's never going to happen. Okay. So no debris field found should be the number one thing before anything else. The fact that there was not a massive debris field found, that proves there was no crash that happened. End of debate. No argument against it. Supposed investigators claim that somehow the plane landed in the ocean perfectly intact and then sank to the bottom. That's actually not possible in the ocean. I don't know why anyone thinks that it is. It's not. So we have satellites everywhere that are mapping the whole world all the time. There's no hiding a debris field on this planet. It's certainly not in the ocean where the debris spreads around. Our military satellites have much higher resolution than commercially available ones as well. So again, this is just basic facts. So it's not possible for this plane to have crashed because we didn't find a debris field. End of debate. The most expensive and extensive search in history did not find a single piece of the plane above or below water. They spent over $200 million on this. The official search found nothing. We are going to talk about the debris. I'm going to have to add some stuff to that. No black boxes. None of the 4 redundant emergency transponders went off either, which only go off during a crash that cannot be deactivated. So that's pretty weird too, right? Like, it's crazy how much information people have denied. SOSA system would have heard the system. Okay, here we go. We're going to add here. So somebody said about the acoustic, the hydrophone acoustic detections. So we're going to change this. Cardiff University scientific paper found no acoustic detections from consistent with a plane crash and okay. So they found 1 acoustic detection. The paper found only 1 acoustic detection from 1 of the 2 detectors, even though both would have heard it. They showed that mathematically and using other examples. And it's almost an hour after the plane ran out of fuel, so that pretty much just rules it out. I mean, planes don't fly without fuel, so there's no acoustic detections. They also checked the entire flight path too. So they didn't just check around the 7th arc; they checked the entire flight path. No acoustic detections consistent with the plane crashing. That should also rule it. I mean, all you should need is no debris field found, but that really nails it down. All these countries would have seen the plane on radar. I am going to add the image in there real quick, guys. Oh, crap. I don't know if we're going to get through everything. Probably need like a whole 3 hours to go through it all, huh? Here it is. There you go. There's the radar coverage. Where's the drift analysis? No witnesses, active shipping route, phone still ringing for up to 4 days. That's really big as well. I mean, phones don't ring near the bottom of the ocean, guys. Where did the plane go? Let's see. We're getting there. Hold on. Okay, debunking the debris. So no debris found, not enough debris. Let's see. We'll get there, guys. I think we're gonna get there. So here we go. Let's see. Where's the... Here we go. So that's that. So they searched with all these boats, planes. The barnacle growth is not consistent. Here's where the plane went. Let me find the part about where the plane went. God, we're not gonna get through all this, unfortunately, guys. Yeah, we're definitely not getting through all this. Okay, Diego Garcia. I'm gonna post it. You know what? I'm gonna actually put this up near the flight path. I'm gonna post it on Diego Garcia. Okay, so here's your flight path. Where did the plane go? Probably Diego Garcia. If it's going back to the west, then it's going over here near the Maldives. Some islanders see the plane. Then Diego Garcia military base. And then the Philip Wood picture that showed up on 4chan had metadata that points to Diego Garcia military base. So what you'll hear is the debunkers say that these cloud images have metadata in them that shows they're from 2012. Okay, well, if somebody injected the image on top of it, then it's going to retain the same metadata. Or if they fabricated them from other images and just copied the metadata from other images, then that's also going to be a problem, and then manipulated that. So if metadata cannot be manipulated, then the Philip Wood picture proves the plane ended up in Diego Garcia. If metadata can be manipulated, then there's no credibility for the photos based on their metadata. So you can't have it both ways. You got to pick and choose one way or the other. Either way, it doesn't matter to me. We have evidence that can work either direction related to it. So the debris cannot have, the debris can have come from MH370, but it cannot have ended in the South Indian Ocean, because here's your debris and drift analysis. This one that's red here is after 24 months. It actually doesn't even get to Tasmania. This is no, this is is this Reunion Islands here? I think this is Reunion Islands. It can't even get to the place where the flaperon did in 24 months. And the debris was found somewhere around 14 to 16 months after the plane went down. Notice that the debris all should have washed ashore in Western Australia. Zero debris was found in Western Australia. The official search didn't find any of this debris. Why did the official search not find any of the debris? Because they were searching in the wrong spot. If you're searching down here along the 7th arc, yes, you're not going to find any debris, because this is not where the plane crashed. Now, if we look at this other image of where the debris was found, this should end any and all debate. Here it is. Where should I add this one? There you go. There you go. This one right here. Here's your search area down here. Here's where this turn in the South Indian Ocean, somewhere up here. Now, notice where all this debris was found. 0% chance that the debris can wash over here. I mean, here's your drift analysis. Look at it. Nothing can. It's going to take 3 years for the debris to get to Africa. It was found in less than half the time. Look, there's a piece of engine cowling in South Africa. There's a big RR on it for Rolls-Royce. It's clearly from MH370. The debris that was found, not only does it not prove a crash, because here's only the tiny 3 pieces that are confirmed. This piece right here is not this big. There's no pieces that are even remotely this size. I don't know why CNN's lying about this. Only a few tiny pieces were found. Don't even prove a crash. And they washed up in the wrong continent. The debris 100% rules out a crash in the South Indian Ocean. Literally not possible. You can look at the currents yourself. Notice Diego Garcia is a much better fit for the debris location. If the debris was thrown in the water near Diego Garcia, it explains all of where the debris washed ashore. Again, this doesn't require any type of expertise or anything like this. It's just basic common sense. It's all that was ever needed to figure this out. The Find My Phone thing, I don't know if it was or not, guys. But a lot of people ask, can we go back and look at, telephone data from 10 years ago? No. First of all, we don't have access to that. Second of all, there's no chance. Someone also told me that Rolls-Royce was in the process of deleting all their data related to this investigation. I don't know if that's true or not, but somebody told me that. Rolls-Royce would know 100% what happened to this plane. They're also implicated in the cover-up. If I was them, I'd be shredding documents like crazy. There was also a B777 fire suppression device that washed up in the Maldives. Let me pull that up. Okay. Here it is. I'm going to add this. There's the Boeing 777 fire suppression device that washed up in the Maldives. Somebody tried to argue this was some kind of Russian rocket thing. What the fuck are they talking about, man? This is obviously a Boeing 777 fire suppression device. There's even a serial number here. There'd be no reason why anyone would not just look the serial number up, and yet they did not look it up. Okay. There's another plane that was scrapped. I think I updated this. The 9M MRI. Here's the example. Yeah, there it is. So you can see right here, this plane was supposedly bought in 2013 by GA Telesis, which is a company that's kind of linked to U.S. military as well. I already mentioned the Philip Wood thing. So the Philip Wood picture showed up on 4chan, indicates that the plane ended up in Diego Garcia. We can't necessarily explain why that picture was posted on 4chan, but it's a picture that exists, and it has metadata on it that points to Diego Garcia military base. It's pretty weird for somebody to implicate Diego Garcia military base like 10 days after the plane disappeared. Like what random 4chaner came up with that story? Especially because that's the most logical place to hide the Boeing 777. And it turns out a bunch of islanders saw the plane going that direction. Why is this MH370? I'm probably going to skip through this. Like it's a perfect match for MH370. Even the metadata in the video, we had to look in the metadata of the video, but in the metadata of the video, there's keywords from Malaysian Airlines. So everybody's stuck up for the pilot. There's literally no indication of suicide anywhere on the flight path. The official's wife, coworkers, Florence DeChangi also saw his medical records. I found an article that talked about that as well. Florence DeChangi actually, they gave him access. They gave her access to his medical records. He found that there was not, because the families and everyone was adamant that he was not. He didn't do it. Oh, here's Captain Balelli. Suggests whoever was in command of the aircraft would have had to intentionally disconnect all 4 electrical generators and the APU, which is practically impossible for a single person to do that. In fact, I don't think it's the type of thing that they train you how to do as well. So really doesn't make any sense. Okay, the Cobra Gold exercise. Okay, the lithium-ion battery fire, 487 pounds of lithium-ion batteries put together that same day. Mentor pilot got this wrong. Mentor pilot argued that there was 5,000 pounds, but it's only 470 pounds of batteries. The rest of it is other electronic equipment. So Mentor pilot's video is factually incorrect. Which again is just sad that like his video gets like 4 million views and he misses about 80% of the evidence. He says multiple factually incorrect claims. You know, this is part of the reason why we're so dumb and we can't figure stuff out, is because you've got people who are like pretend to be experts who don't know shit about this situation in this case. The pallets, two of the pallets of these batteries, they're stacked up, unpackaged unsafely. They missed X-ray screenings, I believe. Or at least they missed 2 screenings that day. They were manually inspected, which I don't even know what that means. So the flight event is corroborated in 19 ways. People ask why in the cargo bay would they not? Why would the batteries not burn through the cargo bay? Well, because the compartments were designed to stand flame sources of up to 1,700 degrees Fahrenheit. So if the batteries are being constantly put out, they're going to keep coming back up. This plane's not going to last a very long time, but you know, theoretically, can it last for an hour and 20 minutes? Theoretically, yes. The fire extinguishing devices are automatic, and they can last for up to 3 hours, 3 to 4 hours. I've read. I think we talked a lot about that. Oh, there's also the China Times reported communication of a Boeing 777, of actually MH370. China Times reported of a Mayday call at 2:43, which is equivalent to 18:43 UTC if that's Malaysian time, which is just a few minutes within this plane being in Catherine T's sighting, of the plane attempting an emergency landing and disintegrating. So now we have 3 sources of corroboration. 3 sources. This is better than what most people report on stuff. We have 2 videos. We have Catherine T, who sees the plane flying low and with smoke coming out of the back of it, consistent with the fire. And we have a Mayday call reported from the China Times that indicated the plane was attempting emergency landing and disintegrated. They intercepted this communication. Why did they make it public? They were trying to expose the United States. Yes, they do have better masks, actually. The pilots actually have like full masks that go over them, and they have their own oxygen tanks as well. So, yeah. And who knows? Maybe they were. The plane could have been remote controlled as well. I'm going to probably have to add that afterwards because I think we're going to run out of time here. Oh, I already had the remote control thing. So Catherine T, I already basically spoke about her side. I spoke to her personally back in October as well. Oh, and I have a spelling mistake somewhere in one of these things as well. I think it's back up here. I'll have to find it later. We're going to go for about 5 more minutes, and then I'll send you guys over to the live stream or to the X space. For the record, real quick on the X Space, I'm not going to live stream the X Space. I don't want to interfere with the X Space. I also don't plan on speaking on the X Space, although I may join a speaker just so that more people have visibility to it to get more people in there. But I don't plan to interfere. I want to just let other people talk. I don't want to be the main person involved in this at all. Okay. Oh, that's interesting. Where does this come from? Somebody find me a reference for this and post in our Discord. Also, I'll post a link in the Discord right now while I'm going through the last few pieces of evidence. So lastly, I don't think that I think that some people might have survived, but I think that it was few enough people that they had to cover it up, that there was no way to have these people come back. There's a Discord link for you guys as well. I'm gonna make a quick quiz. Yeah, I mean, that's a crazy quote because that implies a fire event as well. That quote, an emergency event. That's a crazy quote. Yeah, I will send you guys the link to the X Space before we drop here, guys. I'm going to send you guys over there, so don't worry. Yeah, I think that the story that we presented here, I'm trying to think like the AWACS. So the witnesses, where's the part where the French, also Matthias Chang apparently was like told that he got some sealed evidence, and Matthias Chang also tried to reach out to alternative podcasters. He knew something. He knew something about it. You said it would have global impact on the world's economy if people found out about it, probably from the science that we see. So Edward C. Lin, I'm going to skip over, guys. You can see the Edward C. Lin stuff if you want here. It's very detailed. I don't think there's anything to add on the Edward C. Lin. China hacked the Malaysian government and stole crisis meeting minute notes and classified information about the plane on March 9th, the next day. This is why it's China that's not involved. The satellite images also most likely are a message to the United States that they knew what they did. So they found something related to the U.S.'s search efforts after the plane was lost from radar. There's been no update since then. So there's two fake passengers, two Iranian fake passengers. Those are the people that we should blame it on. Honestly, that's what people will fall for. If you're as dumb as Joe Claymore, you should probably rewatch the stream because there is a 0% chance it was pilot suicide. I want to be clear about this. 0% chance. Out of all the possibilities, pilot suicide is by far the dumbest. It's exponentially dumber than the plane being zapped away by orbs. It's literally so stupid that I question whether or not you are even a conscious human being. There is zero evidence that it was pilot suicide. There's zero evidence that the plane crashed into the ocean. So once again, for people like that, you really need to learn how to think for yourself. Like I worry about some of you guys. I imagine you work for like Burger King or something because, you know, if you can't even think for yourself, you're going to have a really hard time in this life. Just rewatch this video that we just did here, guys. You'll understand very quickly, or just look at this link that I'm sharing right here. I'll post this link as well again. Like just look through the evidence here and you'll realize it's not possible for this to be pilot suicide. Of all the possibilities, that's the dumbest one. I think I was looking for the part where the French father was told there was 2 AWACS in the area. Let me just search for AWACS. I have so much stuff. Oh yeah, here it is. Okay. We were near the end here. I'm going to skip over the debunks, but the debunk stuff is pretty elaborate. Also, man, these Salvatore Pais patents are really, really important, guys. Both of these patents, I'm so glad I added those. It's even after the fact, it's even crazier. Like those patents are, those are it. Okay, yeah, the motive is the Freescale semiconductor engineers. You can read the part about here related to that. I mean, they're definitely connected to it. We found a lot of evidence that links them, like enough that like anybody who's doing a criminal investigation, they would be looking at the Freescale semiconductors. Like way too many people, guys. They're working on advanced microchips. Like, come on. It's already undeniable at this point, but the question is, when are people going to wake up and realize, oh, I should have zoomed in on this. Sorry, guys. The question is, when are people going to realize, you know, that's the rub. I think it could take a few more years, but once we learn that we can actually really teleport objects in real life, that's when people are going to start to come to terms with these videos being real. I think I've got these videos in a spot where they can't be denied anymore. The reason why it's not aliens in the videos as well is because they're already filming this. This is an operation. So, I mean, there's some aspect of non-human intelligence, like, is this reverse engineer technology? I don't know. But we can explain everything we see. We don't need to evoke aliens or magic, you know. The technology and science is all out there. That's the crazy part. Even the idea of teleporting a plane's out there too. So, here's your flight path for the people that want to know. Marc Dugain is a famous French author. He said playing with Diego Garcia, the pilot had Diego Garcia in his simulator. Yeah, the simulator data was ruled out as well, by the way. I don't know if I posted that. I might need to add that real quick. And then we're going to, I think that was near the end. Simulator data. Oh, here it is. So the simulator data was ruled out as not suspicious by the Prime Minister and the FBI. And it turns out the route they were trying to match, because Jeff Wise is the piece of shit that ran this fucking suicide myth fake theory out there. Jeff Wise might be an asset. I'm just going to be honest, guys. He's pushed more disinformation about this plane than anybody else out there. The route actually was just MH370 to Jeddah, by the way, for anyone who wants to know that. It was not any kind of suicide route. It was literally a flight that he was already scheduled to fly on February 4th, a month before the plane disappeared. The families never believed the official story. Settlements most likely forced the families into silence. U.S. now Supreme Court Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson ruled against the civil suit in 2018. That's weird. If they're alive, they could have been returned in exchange for their silence, or they would have gone in witness protection, possibly. They would have been wards of the state. The nephew was told his uncle was collateral damage. The French father was told 2 AWACS were in the area, and the Americans know exactly what happened. And the former head of Indonesian police was told what really happened to MH370 by his counterpart. So there you go, guys. What a crazy story, right? Any last questions before we switch over? I don't know of any other stories like this. Could they have used this technology again? Maybe. This is the kind of technology, you don't break this out often. You only break this technology out when you think there's no chance anyone's going to find out about it. But, you know, maybe they did. Okay, so let's pull up. I'm going to close this. Feel free to check out that link if you guys want it. I also post a link to the Discord. I'll post another link to the Discord here if you guys want an invite. Only requirements is that you don't troll in the Discord. We do have some trolling occasionally. I usually don't have to ban people, though. So how could they survive? Because it's not necessarily a conversion into energy, although it could be if it's macroscopic phase conjugation. If it is a wormhole, then what you're doing is imagine like a turkey baster. You squeeze the turkey baster, and then the juice or the air flies out through the end of the turkey baster. Same idea. You're manipulating the medium of space-time itself. So it looks fantastical to us, but for the people who are there, it's going to be an instantaneous transition from being here to being over here. The whole secret is manipulating the medium. If you're manipulating the medium, you're also manipulating gravity. That's what people need to start to understand. There's a connection between gravity and the space-time ether. Okay. There is some circumstantial evidence that people survived. The Philip Wood EXIF data picture, the fact that there's these lookalikes on the island on Diego Garcia that look like the crew members, but there's only circumstantial evidence. We can't say for sure. I personally do not think that everybody survived. So probably to Eve's point, the plane just goes from over here in a bubble to over here in a bubble. And then it appears over here the same way where it entered over here. Now, if it's true macroscopic phase conjugation and it's being converted from matter to energy and then to matter again, then I think you have an issue of like, does anybody survive? It's hard to say. Like we can only, I mean, guys, we're into science. It's so far out there. It's hard to be sure about anything. Okay, I'm going to send you guys over to the X space. I hope you guys enjoyed this live stream. I also want to thank all the donations real quick and see if I missed any. TH600 Mike, Enchanted Nightbird, Ware 3. Appreciate you guys. Okay, let me. Yeah, I'm guessing they're doing their intros. Okay, cool. Let me find it for you guys real quick. I'll post the link as well. So here you go. Copy link. Here's the link to the X space. I'm putting in the chat right now for you guys. I'll retweet it out here after I drop the live stream. So you can go to my Twitter profile and you can check it out. But there's the link right there. Otherwise, go to my Twitter profile, check it out. I will join. Even if I join as a speaker, I'm not going to speak. So I just want to let them go, guys. Okay, guys, have a great night. Thank you, MH370X. I'm going to play us out with a song, but I'm not going to comment. I'm going to jump over to that space. So I hope you guys enjoyed that evidence review. Have a great night, everybody. Peace.
It's MH370 until you do some research. Don't talk to me. I'm going to find the truth while I sip this martini. Your opinion, it means squat to me. It's H370. Not all heroes wear capes. I wear glasses to see. I'm going to find the truth while I sip this martini. The trolls hate seeing me succeed. But guess what? H370. Your